people here. Because people, well, he concluded the last one that even the ones who did not have a law, right? The people who sinned without the law, which are the Gentiles, are still going to be, they're still going to perish because they sinned, because they have a law in their heart, not the Ten Commandments. And also the ones who do have the law, which are the Ten Commandments, which those are the Jewish people, they're going to be judged by the law, you know? And then right here, the title of it is The Jews Are as Guilty as Gentiles. I'm assuming a lot of Jews, like, something I like that Paul does is that he kind of predicts questions, or he predicts people will have certain contradictions or questions, and he answers them when he sends his letters out, you know? Like right here, he's predicting that somebody will say, yeah, but I'm a Jew, you know? Like, I know a Gentile should perish because he doesn't have law, but I'm a Jew. And look how he starts, 17. He says, indeed you are called a Jew, and rest on the law, and make your boast in God, you know? So he's saying, yeah, you are a Jew, that's true, and you do rest on the law, and you do, you can boast on the fact that, God directly speaks to the Jews. And it says here, and know his will, and approve the things that are excellent, being instructed out of the law. He's talking about the commandments right here. He says, you know his will. The Jews, they know the will of God, and they approve of the things that are excellent, which is God's law, which is excellent, and they're being instructed out of the law. And look what he says about those Jews. He says, and are confident that you yourselves are a guide to the blind, a light to those who are in the darkness. So he's talking about to the Jews right now. He's saying, so you guys are also confident that you guys are a guide. You guys know the law. You guys get word directly from God. You guys get to be a light to those who don't know anything. You guys get to teach them. Look what it says in 20. It says, an instructor of the foolish, a teacher of babes, having the form of knowledge and truth in the law. So right now he's telling the Jews, you guys can teach the people. You guys can go to those who don't know about the law and teach them. You guys have that knowledge of the law, right? Like right now he's basically coming up to the Jews and telling them, yeah, I'm aware that, you guys get the direct message from God. Like, what I like about Paul is that he himself used to be one of these teachers of the law. He used to be a Pharisee, and so what I like what he's doing right here. He's basically saying, he's basically like coming to them the same way that he probably used to think before he became an actual follower of Christ. And he's coming to them by telling them, yeah, you guys do get direct message from God. You guys do instruct all those people who are in darkness. And then look what it says right here in 21. Look what he tells them. He says, you therefore, who teach another, do you teach yourself? He's asking them, you who are going around teaching others, do you teach yourself? And then look what it says. You who preach that a man should not steal, do you steal? You who say, do not commit adultery, do you commit adultery? He's getting the Jews. He's telling them, like, you guys who are telling people don't do these things, are you not practicing the same things? And look what it says. You who abhor idols, do you rob temples? I like this one. This one you have to go back to, like, I think it's in Malachi. One of the prophets who talks about how they robbed them, and they ask, how have we robbed you? And he said, through your tithings, and your offerings. Like, they were robbing because they made money an idol. That's why it says, you who abhor idols, you who hate idols, do you rob temples? Basically saying that, do you make money your idol? Like, money is not the root of all evil, but the love for money is the root of all evil, So he's basically telling them, you who hate idols, do you not make money your idols, and rob out of the temples by not giving your 10% or by not giving your offering? Look what it says in 23. It says, you who make your boast in the law, do you dishonor God through breaking the law? And right now he's talking to Jews because he's basically saying, you guys have the law of God. You guys get the message directly from God. But do you guys actually do these things perfectly? Do you guys actually follow this law just as it ought to be followed? He's saying, you who make your boast in the law. You guys who say, oh, we have the law. We don't need Christ. We have the law. And he says, do you dishonor God through breaking the law? Don't you guys also break the law? You guys are also humans, you guys might be Jews and have the law and have message directly from God, but you guys are still breaking this law, and y'all know it. And look what it says right here. For the name of God is blasphemed among the Gentiles because of you, as it is written. So I like this, right? He's saying, like, so the Jews are receiving word from God, and through the Jews the word of God will be spread among all the nations, all the Gentile nations and every other nation. Through the Jews, through them. And he's telling them that the name of God is being blasphemed among the Gentiles, which are the other nations, because of you. I said it's written. He's basically going back to an Old Testament verse to just bring forward his point, to make his point stronger. He's basically telling them, you guys also failed to do these things. Just because you guys have the law, just because you guys get messages directly from God, it doesn't make you any better. You guys are still failing just like all the Gentiles. You guys still break the law. You guys are not perfect human beings, you know? He's adding on to the problem. And he starts with Gentiles, and now he's going to the Jews. And he's basically trying to bring everybody under this condemnation. The whole world, not just the Gentiles, not just the Jews, everybody. And right now he's getting on the Jews. He's telling them, yeah, you guys might talk to God. You guys might have direct message from God. You guys might have the law of God. And you guys might say that the law of God will save you, but you guys aren't really following this law perfectly. And through you, the name of God is being blasphemed. Like, because the Gentiles see you guys breaking these laws, see you guys being hypocrites, and you guys are just blaspheming God's name. Right? And like, look what it says here. In verse 25, it says, for circumcision is needed, profitable if you keep the law. But if you are a breaker of the law, your circumcision has become uncircumcision. I like this, right? So they also had this, they boasted on their circumcision. They're like, we are circumcised. We're separated from all these other people. These Gentiles, they're not circumcised. We are circumcised. That's a pact that God made with Abraham. So we are children of God. That's why we're going to heaven. Or that's why we deserve God's favor. We already learned that God has no favorites, We already learned that. God chose the nation of Israel, right? To spread the word from Israel. Like, it's concentrated in Israel, the word, and it will be spread everywhere. So he started with Israel. He chose them, but they're no better than anybody else, because they also fell this law. They fell to the law, and it's basically telling them right now, you guys have circumcision. Yeah, it would be profitable if you guys kept the law, but if you're a breaker of the law, then your circumcision has become uncircumcision. He's basically saying, like, your circumcision is worthless if you guys are breaking the law. If you guys are not a perfect doer of the law, because one thing we gotta understand is this, guys. The law, like, we read this everywhere. By breaking just one commandment, you break the whole law, right? Breaking just one commandment, you break the whole law. If you bear false witness, you broke the whole law, It doesn't mean that you broke every commandment. It just means that you broke the whole law. Because just by breaking one, it's enough for you to break everything. And these people thought because they had the law, they were better than everybody else, and that they didn't need Jesus Christ. They didn't need a savior. And he's telling them, he says, if you kept the law, your circumcision might be profitable, but you guys don't even keep the law. You guys break it all the time. So your circumcision becomes uncircumcision. And right here, he starts to explain how circumcision works. Look what it says. Therefore, if an uncircumcised man keeps the righteous requirements of the law, will not his uncircumcision be counted as circumcision? So he's telling you, if there's a man who is not circumcised, right? He doesn't have the physical thing you can see to be like, okay, he's separated, he's different than the rest of them. Because if he doesn't have that, but he still continues to keep the righteous law without ever failing against it, will his uncircumcision not be counted as circumcision? He's basically saying, will he not be counted as one of you guys if he's actually keeping the law and you guys aren't, And look what it says in 27. It says, and will you who even with your written code, talking about the law, written code, and circumcision are a transgressor of the law? For he is not a Jew who is one outwardly, nor is circumcision that which is outward in the flesh. Basically, Paul's telling him here, those who are not even circumcised physically, if they still fulfill the law, they're gonna throw judgment on you guys, because even with your written code and your circumcision, you guys are still a transgressor of the law. So they're only making you guys look even worse, because you guys have all these, you guys are boasting on your law, you guys are boasting on your circumcision, but you got these other people who are not even circumcised and they're still following the law. So they're putting judgment on you guys. Look what it says right here. For he is not a Jew who is one outwardly, nor is circumcision that which is outward in the flesh, but he is a Jew who is one inwardly, and circumcision is that of the heart in the spirit, not in the letter, whose praise is not from men, but from God. Okay? So right here, right, he's basically saying that you might be a Jew and you might be circumcised, right? And he's saying, but if there's somebody who is not a Jew and he's not circumcised, right? But if he inwardly, if he follows this law, if he's not a transgressor of the law as you guys are, right? Inwardly, he's a Jew, and inwardly, he is circumcised in his heart and in the spirit. So he's basically telling the Jews right now, he's saying, you guys have your physical things you guys can see outwardly, right? But inside, you guys are not what you guys claim to be. You guys might have circumcision physically. You guys might have the law, but you guys are not following any of these things. You know, you guys are not acting upon these things. And on 29, he's basically saying, and he who follows this, he who lives a righteous life, a perfect righteous life, he is a Jew inwardly. Because even though he's not actually a Jew, he's doing that which a Jew should be doing. So inwardly, he is a Jew. And circumcision is that of the heart, in the spirit. You know, it's an inward thing, right? They were boasting on the fact that it was something outward that people could see, but in reality, they were not really looking inside of their hearts. They were not looking inside of their actions and their ways of actually desiring things in their minds, you know? They were just boasting about their outward things. And then he's saying about the people whose praise is not from men, but from God, right? So the praise that they're receiving, they don't want to receive praise from man. Those who are worshiping God, they're not worshiping God to receive praise from men. They're worshiping God to receive praise from God, right? From God, right? Whose praise is not from men, but from God. So they're not seeking to be seen by others, you know, like Jesus Christ, when he came, he was like, don't be like these hypocrites. Don't be like these Pharisees, all these hypocrites who stand in the synagogues and, and they're praying and in front of everybody so that everybody can see. Don't be like these hypocrites who, they don't even wash their face. They look all hungry. They even they even mess up their hair to look even worse so that people can be like, wow, look how much they fasted and prayed, you know. Don't be like these hypocrites, because they already received their reward. Jesus says this. He talks about this. He says they already received the reward. But you will find the reward if you get into your secret closet, get into your secret place with God. And the reward will come from who? From God. That will be your reward. That connection you have with God will be the reward. And he's telling those Pharisees, they already got the reward. What is that reward? The praise of men. Men are looking at them and saying, wow, look how much they fast, look how much they pray, And that's basically what Paul is saying right here, He's saying, those whose praise is not from men, but from God. Those who are seeking the praise from God and not from men. All these Jews, they were so entitled to themselves because they got the word directly from God. And they were like, oh, we're people of God. Look at all those Gentiles. They don't deserve nothing. We don't even need Christ. Why would we need Christ? We have our law. And Paul is telling them, you guys don't even follow this law. You guys aren't true Jews. Your circumcision is worth nothing. You guys don't follow the law. Your circumcision is nothing. He's basically telling all these Jews, you guys are as guilty as all the Gentiles. The Gentiles are guilty for sinning despite the fact that they have a law written in their hearts, and you guys are as guilty for thinking that you guys have some type of righteousness just because of the law and because God talks directly to you guys. So right now, in conclusion to chapter 2 of Romans, we get this, right? We get that God is a perfectly judge. He's a perfect judge, and he's going to judge all equally, the Jews and the Gentiles. There is no difference. God has no favorites. He's going to judge them the same way. Because he's Paul is basically letting the Jews know right here. In case you guys thought that you guys had your law and you guys had your circumcision, you guys are wrong. Because you guys are transgressors of the law. And if you guys are transgressors of the law, your law and your circumcision is worth nothing. It only adds to your judgment. Because there's some Gentiles out there who are actually doing the things that you guys are supposed to be doing. And they don't even have this law. So you guys are going to be judged with a heavier judgment. Why? Because you guys, despite the fact that you guys have the law, you guys don't even follow it. And you guys have all these Gentiles that are making you guys look bad, So he's basically telling them, everybody, nobody's exempt from this. The judgment of God is coming, And God is a judge. He's a judge that would judge us righteously. So he's not going to let the guilty unpunished. And now we are left in the 2nd chapter of Romans knowing one thing, and that is this. That God is so right when it comes to judging us. We all deserve eternal damnation to hell. Why? Because we're all transgressors of the law. None of us meet this perfect standard of a righteous life since we're born all the way till we're dead. So we have to know that for a fact. We don't deserve to go to heaven, right? But in chapter 3, we finally get the beauty, the center of the gospel, the beauty. I love how Paul decides to chapter the things, in chapter 1, he's telling us a bit of problems. Chapter 2, he's going to specific groups to tell them about their problem. If they thought that they were going to be entitled, they were going to have some exception, he was like, nope, nobody's exempted. All of you guys are guilty. Everybody's guilty. Like I said in chapter 1, in chapter 2, I'm letting you guys know directly because you guys might have questions or might say, how about me, But no, we're all guilty, guys. Everybody is, right? And then in chapter 3, we finally get some hope. So I hope you guys can stay tuned, and may the Lord bless your soul.